these are now the very simple steps of what you have to do to draw a net map. And I think what keeps fascinating me about this is that it's so extremely simple and the results can be so extremely complex. So the first thing you do is you put a piece of paper on a table and you ask, who are all the actors involved in my question? So who are all the people who can influence my success, who can influence whether this is going to turn into a revolution or a bloodbath, who can influence whatever your question is. Here I've used different colored post-its, and I have the different colors for different actor groups. In this specific case, which is a water governance case in northern Ghana, I used the pink post-its for government actors, the orange ones for traditional authorities, yellow for community-based actors or civil society, and green for NGOs. But it really depends on what case you're looking at. For example, when I did this with Procter & Gamble, looking at how can they get more washing powder on the shelves of the retailer Costco, we had one color for the internal Procter & Gamble people, one color for the Costco people, and one color for everyone else. So it really depends on what your case is, what colors you want. And then you link them by drawing arrows. And you think a little bit about what different connections matter in your specific case. So whatever connects two actors can be a link. You can say flow of money. You can have who puts pressure on who has a hierarchical relationship to who is illicit lovers of whom, if that's what runs your organization. I had net maps where we looked at who tortures whom. I hope that doesn't run your organization. But in some cases, that's what you need to know what intervention you can plan against torture. You choose 3 or 4 different links with different colors and draw all the links between all the actors according to how they're connected. And then you want to know what their goals are, and that's these, in this case, just abbreviation. The case of water governance in northern Ghana, we had some development actors whose main goal was economic development, and some environmental actors whose main goal was protection of the environment. And we gave a D to the development and a P to the protection actors, and those who had both goals got both letters. If they had one leaning sort of towards one more strongly, like the chiefs here, they were underlined. So they cared about protection of the environment, but they lead much more strongly to economic development. And then the influence towers. These have actually changed a little bit in the meantime, but basically remained the same. So you ask how strongly can they influence this specific case. It's not how strongly can they influence the running of the world. So very often the president of a country, for example, will not be the most influential person in your map if, let's say, it's about healthcare on the community level, even though he might be most, or she might be most influential in national politics, but for your specific question, the president might have something like this, and the local news might have something like this. But if it's about, where will the revolution go? Maybe the president will be like this, and the news will not even exist on your map. So each and every actor gets an influence tower according to their influence. If they have no influence, they don't get a tower. When I present this, normally this is the first question that I get, so I decided to just spare you the effort and put the question on a slide. Why do you go and bring toys to people instead of having some fancy online tool? And it's not just because I love toys, and it's also not because I don't want to work with computers. But the most important thing is that there's been a lot of research showing if you physically manipulate things, real things in space. If you draw and move stuff around, you engage the whole brain, your emotional and your rational side of the brain. And if you click things on a computer, it's mainly your rational brain that's involved, and the problems that we're looking at are so complex that half your brain is just not enough. And the most important thing that you get out of map mapping is the discussion. So yes, you get the dots and the lines on the map, but what's really crucial is sitting around a table, looking at the final picture and getting the in-depth discussion and the fighting about, is this really what it looks like, and why do I think it looks like this, and why do you disagree, and what does that mean for us? And that you don't really get when you work online, maybe even in different offices. And you, I don't know what this thing in the middle is, but behind this it says experts. So, can I do something?
I think it's just the cursor. Is it?
No. There you go. Okay, now it's gone for whatever magical reason. Yeah, so there's a lot of social network analysis that's done by computer, and then you end up with really complex maps where you need an expert to explain to the person who's part of this network what this actually means. And I found that even the most complex drawn map, if you've been part of the drawing of this map, you still understand what it means, and it's much more powerful and gives much more ownership to the people who did the mapping. And very often it also helps to move the next step to action. So once you have the whole map in front of you, you can say, okay, if this is what it is, what can everyone in the room do to move towards another situation that we prefer?